Hey, my name's Jake Hill, and welcome to the Blackbird Church Production YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the top 5 issues churches face when live streaming their services and how to fix them. Whether you're just getting started and wanting to avoid these issues, or you're having these issues with your current live stream, we hope this short video can help. First issue we're going to talk about is probably the most common one when setting up live stream systems, and becomes more common the more complicated your live stream system gets. This is that you don't see the image show up on your switcher or your encoder. This can happen if the resolutions or frame rates on your streaming equipment don't match, but it can also be the result of bad cables. To fix this, I would first try a few different cables to rule that out. Then, check the frame rate and resolution of all your devices to make sure they're all the same. You'll most likely want this to be 24 or 30 frames per second. In some rare cases, the signal won't go through because the camera is using 23.976 frames per second, and the video switcher is using actual 24. So for this, I would recommend trying to switch to either 30 frames per second or getting something like a decimator that lets you convert to different frame rates. If you're using wireless transmitters, I've also seen the feed cut out at times if it's trying to send too much data wirelessly. Aside from moving the wireless video transmitter and receiver closer together, you can fix this by lowering the frame rate, resolution, and bit rate of your camera so it isn't trying to send quite as much data. The next issue is your stream being blurry, low quality, or buffering on other devices. Now, a lot of times, this can be on the viewer's end if their internet connection isn't strong, so it's important to determine if this is a widespread issue or not. If you've determined that it's not a problem isolated to just one viewer, some things to try are to check your internet connection you're streaming from by doing a speed test on other devices. Hardwiring to the internet instead of using Wi-Fi can also help. Finally, make sure you aren't trying to stream more than your upload speed can handle. This could be a resolution, frame rate, or bitrate issue. Most streaming services let you lower the bitrate of your video going out to decrease the buffering but also reduce the quality. In the same vein, if your stream is super low quality, it might be worth looking into faster internet options so you can raise that bitrate option to achieve higher quality. Next, a lot of churches have had their live stream muted or even taken down by YouTube or Facebook. Go on nearly any church media Facebook group, and that's one of the most common complaints. Facebook does this to avoid liability from people live streaming copyrighted content. Unfortunately, unless you're a really large church or organization, there isn't really a whole lot you can do to prevent this. In my experience, this can happen even if you do everything right. However, here are a few ways that you can help avoid this in the future. The first is making sure you have the right licenses from CCLI. CCLI stands for Christian Copyright Licensing International, and they provide licenses to churches playing live worship music and also for streaming it. CCLI has specific requirements for both, which you can learn about at ccli.com. The biggest cause of getting your stream shut down by Facebook, in my personal experience, is by playing copyrighted music either pre-service, post-service, or during a transition element. A lot of churches do this in person, but when you're live streaming, you have to use music that you have the rights to. Sites such as Soundstripe, Epidemic Sound, Artlist, and MusicBed allow you to download and license music to use for streaming. Finally, the only true way to make sure your stream doesn't get muted or shut down due to Facebook or YouTube is to stream to your church's own website, although it can take more time and money to set up. If you use a program like Church Online Platform, which is free, and the embed code from your streaming provider, you can actually have your own custom live stream platform set up relatively quickly. Another big issue when live streaming you might encounter is low audio on your stream. Most video switchers and even encoders have a meter that shows your audio level. However, if you aren't getting a good enough level to your encoder, you should trace the signal back to your mixer and to your other sources. Some of the options if you aren't getting good audio quality or a good audio level is to look at using a separate mixer for online audio, using a DAW, or even using a template in a DAW to be able to mix audio separate than in the room. A lot of times, the audio in the room sounds completely different than it does going online. Since we just talked about audio, the last issue I want to talk about involves lighting. If your stage looks too bright or too dark on camera, or even if it changes, there's a few things that might fix that. The first would be actually adjusting your stage lights. If your lighting is inconsistent as someone walks across the stage, you may need to reposition some front wash lights, or even look at purchasing a few more if there are visible gaps in your stage lighting. If the image from your camera is too bright or too dark overall, it may just be a matter of adjusting the settings. If you aren't very savvy when it comes to shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, I'd suggest watching some YouTube videos to learn more about how all those work together to get proper exposure. Now, after having covered the most common live streaming issues, I thought it would be beneficial to mention a few best practices to ensure you can avoid issues when you live stream going forward. The first would be to run a test live stream before your service starts. This may not be necessary every week, especially as your live stream system builds and becomes more robust. However, when you're first starting out, or even if your equipment is getting used for other things throughout the week, it can save a lot of headaches if you run a test live stream before service. Personally, I like to do this with a private or unlisted YouTube stream. That way, I can pull it up on my phone or other device and check everything that the viewer will be seeing. It's also important to monitor the chat during your live stream. Not only is it important to stay engaged with your audience, but viewers will be quick to point out any issues they're having with your stream so you can diagnose and fix those as quick as possible. It can also be beneficial to check over your analytics from each stream. This can help point out portions in your live stream where people stop or start watching, which can give you more insight into what's going well and what's going not so well. Well, those are the top 5 church live streaming issues and how to fix them, plus a few extra tips on how to avoid issues in the future. Feel free to leave us a comment below or DM us on Instagram if you have any additional questions or any topics you want us to cover. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.